Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. In this testimony, she's one of those who never believed in the altar of fire, but today the story is different.
Streams of Joy International, what God cannot do, what a Roy cannot do. Okay, so my name is Dr. Ngozi Maamelu. I'm a medical doctor and I'm a consultant family physician. I am that woman that God has shown great mercy. All right, so I'll do a little bit of background before I get into the real story. So I joined the nsppd altar that's 2 years back. And my daughter was actually the reason I started joining the altar. Because I remember those, mornings when she would be in her room with her friend and they'll be shouting, fire, fire, amen, amen. And I'll come and tell her, say, Mama, can you just reduce the volume? We are Catholics, so we don't really believe in pastors. So she will come and say, Mommy, come and listen. Pastor Jerry is mentioning big medical names. I'll tell her, Mama, don't worry, these pastors, I'm sure he has a medical doctor as a friend. So that's why he's saying all that. Right, so, so fast forward to later on in the year. One of my siblings, we actually a very closely knit family. So one of my siblings had a challenge and then we all joined the fire altar. Even at that, I wasn't really very serious because I don't have any problem. That's the truth, medical problem. So when Pastor Jerry starts talking about, those, I will just, enter my car and drive to work. So later on the same year, November, I was elected into a very small office to, see over some people. And then I was on the altar one morning and Pastor Jerry said, if you're the head of any organization, get on your knees, you will not die on your throne. And I was like, this is not a throne now. But my spirit said, this is for you, just get on your knees. So I got on my knees and then, Pastor prayed. And then, and that was it. Then fast forward to this year, when we're doing the 21-day fast. I'm postmenopausal, by the way. So I started noticing that I was spotting. And then I told my family members and they were like, no, we have to go to see a doctor, so that what happened to my mommy, because we lost our mom 8 years ago under not very clear circumstances. We couldn't really get a diagnosis. So my family members said, no, let's just go and see a guy. They were all panicking because prior to now, if somebody coughs very hard, all of us will start panicking. All right, so I got to see the gynecologist and my family members, doctor, just take off everything. God, don't worry. Let him just be so that we'll be on the safe side. So I said, go ahead. So I did a total abdominal hysterectomy. They took away everything, the uterus, the cervix, everything. They just took it off. And then they sent it to the lab for histology. And then lo and behold, the result came out and they said I had cancer. And I was like, how? How did I get here? Because prior to now, when I cancel my patients, and they have cancer or let's say they have diabetes or hypertension, I'll tell them, don't worry, it's not a death sentence. Cancer is the one that is a death sentence, so don't worry about that, you'll be fine. All right, so they said, go and do a CT scan. So I did a CT scan. Then one of the mornings, Pastor Jerry said, you are awaiting a result. They said it's spreading. Go back and check. It's not spreading, So I got my result. They said it's all lymph nodes, but they weren't really sure whether it was reactive from my surgery or whether the cancer was spreading. My family member said no. Let this affliction not repeat a second time because my mom died under very unclear circumstances. So I just want to say thank you for the support, the massive support I got from my family members. So they said, let us, because my mom died, we're trying to get a second opinion for her. We actually booked a ticket, but she couldn't, she passed on. So my family members said, no, let's just go ahead and get a second opinion. So at that point, we reached out to an oncologist in the UK. In fact, that's one of the biggest cancer centers in the whole of Europe. So we reached out to them. I had a phone consultation with her. So she said, okay, at this point, go get a PET scan. Did they do it in Nigeria? I said, I'm not sure. So she said, find out, and if they don't do it, then we'll book you in the UK. I said, fine. So I made inquiries. I found out that it's actually one center in the whole of West Africa that they do this PET scan. It's a cancer center in Lagos. So I booked for the PET scan, and they have a lot of people waiting on the queue. So they gave me an appointment. A week to my appointment, they said the machine was bad. They had some technical issues. I was like, what did I do? I just kept telling the devil, I said, I'm not your daughter, just leave me alone. I don't know where this affliction is coming from. So I told my family members, and they said, no, let us do it in the UK. So they booked me for PET scan in the UK. And then a few days to my trip, they called me that they had sorted out I should come. I raced to Lagos, and while I got there, Pastor Jerry, I don't know how to thank you. I don't know what to say. But like they said, you're raising an army. People were all over the place as nsppdns. We're on the altar, morning fire prayers. We were just, kabashing, amen, fire. So I got to the doctor that was supposed to review me before the scan. So they said, you have cancer. I said, no, I don't have cancer, because Pastor Jerry had mentioned before I went for that trip, go and collect your evidence. What they saw before, they will not see again. And I held on to that word. So I told them, I don't have any cancer. I'm coming here to give my testimony, because I actually stood here on the 16th of March to promise God that I was coming back for a testimony. When Pastor Jerry would say, come and if you have stubborn challenge. So I came out. Now, when we were at that center, we got to the point where they had to remove our phones so that we could enter the place. So I entered, we did the PET scan, and then I came back to prepare for my trip. I already bought my ticket. I had to go to the UK to get a review and whatever. So as I was preparing, my family members kept saying, Pastor Jerry has not mentioned your word, but my daughter, God bless you, Mama. My daughter said, Mommy, don't worry. Whether he mentions it, he does not mention it, you already healed. And I said, amen. And then lo and behold, Pastor Jerry one morning said, cervical cancer, be reversed. If you're the one, put it on the... Everybody was shouting, Mommy, they've mentioned your case. So we were all very excited. Now, I got to the UK with the CD of the PET scan. I submitted it at the hospital. While I was at the UK, my evidence came. So they said the cancer status, there was no evidence of residual disease. There was no evidence of metabolically active cells. There was no evidence of metastasis. Pastor Jerry would say, how will you scream? I could not scream. Pastor Jerry. You know how they said when God turned around the captivity of Zion, we were like them that dream. I was just like that. That was what I just kept saying. Now, the oncologist in the UK, when they saw the CD, they called me and said that this is not a PET scan, that is rather a CD. I was like, how? They said no, that they were not seeing, normally, I don't want to get into the technicalities. There are things that would mark for cancer in a PET scan. So they weren't seeing that. So as far as they were concerned, it wasn't a PET scan. I said, I did this PET scan, and I didn't want to tell them a Roy, because once you mention anything religious, they'll just invite a psychiatrist for you. They'll be like, this one don't colo. So I didn't want to tell them a Roy has healed me. So I just kept quiet. I said, I don't have cancer. So they said they could not see me because how would you see an oncologist without a cancer, report? So I stayed 3 weeks because my daughter said, "Mommy, don't worry, you're going for holiday. Just go and come back." And that was what happened. I was in the UK for 3 weeks. At the day they were supposed to see me, they said they weren't going to see me. I came back. So now, in the midst of all of this, I was like, what do I do? Because all these confusions. I said, okay, there's another follow-up test that is done if you've had all these surgeries. They call it a vault smear. So last week, I went to do my vault smear, and it came out negative. It's 6 months. Yeah, this is 6 months down the line. So, and that's the result. So, Papa, church people are not you're not clapping. No. I don't really understand why you people are still sitting and listening to a testimony like this, that God reversed cancer. Pastor Jerry will say, how will you scream? Will you shout? Will you celebrate? Give the Lord a loud shout. Indeed, I'm that woman that God has shown great mercy. A lot of people say, is there God on this altar? I'm sorry for you. I just hope that what brought me will not bring you. And now, we no longer live in fear. In fact, Pastor Jerry, any day that I don't, because that gives us a lot of confidence. You know that God got your back. When you're walking, people will be wondering, this one, they do shakara. It's not shakara. It's the Lord, the goodness of the Lord in my life. All our family members are on the altar. In fact, my patients, I add them to the altar. If you have a stubborn challenge, you join the altar. Pastor Jerry, they say, may the oil on your head never run dry. I remember in one of the services, you talked about the woman that the husband died, and then when he died, they came for the son. And then the prophet said, bring vessels, and then she kept bringing, and then pouring. Pastor Jerry, your vessel is all over the world. It can never run dry. God will continue to fill it. You don't know what you're doing. I am excited. I am happy. And I thank God that I came at a time such as this. I thank God that my path crossed with yours, Pastor Jerry. I thank God that God brought me to this earth to meet a pastor like you. What would I have done? You usually say that the biggest testimony is a testimony of a changed life. You'll be alive to change the life now. If you're not alive, which life will change? So, for me, the biggest testimony is being alive. Sorry, Pastor Jerry, I don't mean to contradict you. You have to be alive for the life to change. So I have come to say thank you. I beg.
I hope you were blessed by this testimony. Kindly like, share, and subscribe.